three ways that you can go inside someone's home. I mean, consent, warrant, ongoing emergency. We don't have consent. We don't have a warrant. And I would argue that we don't have an ongoing emergency.
Police were called to a quiet home after an alarm kept ringing. Inside, they later found marijuana plants growing upstairs. The resident now challenges the search, arguing officers entered without consent, without a warrant, and without a real emergency. Prosecutors say the alarm, the parked cars, and the unknown danger made entry reasonable. But defense lawyers point to something critical: the alarm had already stopped, and no signs of danger were found outside. What officers believed was urgent may not have been an emergency at all. Now the court must decide whether this discovery was lawful, or the moment the Constitution was crossed. You're about to see where that line is drawn.
If you look, I think the body cam of the officers when they entered into the residence is part of the record in this case.
The officer's body camera becomes central evidence. What it shows, and what it does not, may determine whether this search protects safety or violates privacy. In constitutional law, small details often carry enormous weight.
It's about 6 minutes long. The entire time when they first enter the house, unlock the door, walk around, do all of those things, the alarm's not going off at that time. It's not sounding when they enter. It's not sounding when they're inside the house.
The discovery of marijuana plants changes everything. Yet in court, the focus shifts away from the drugs themselves and toward the moment officers first cross the doorway. Legality begins before evidence is ever seen.
Nothing's going on. They're not finding anybody until they go upstairs and they discover the marijuana plants. But when the alarm did sound is not really addressed as to how much longer they had been outside and what they had to do and all of those kind of things.
And they went back and got a search warrant, or the police got a search warrant, correct?
Yes.
And then the plants were seized.
Correct.
By using that search warrant.
Yes, correct.
Not initially.
Right, correct. I mean, there were three ways that you can go inside someone's home. I mean,
this is the constitutional crossroads. Homes are protected spaces, and entry without consent or a warrant is rare. Only a true emergency can justify it, and proving that emergency is now the state's burden.
I mean, consent, warrant, ongoing emergency. We don't have consent, we don't have a warrant, and I would argue that we don't have an ongoing emergency. And I think, I mean,
what is the, if you have a fire department and then the police officers who are called to address this issue, there's an alarm that's been going off for a period of time, like a long period of time. This is not a standalone building. It's one that's attached to a neighboring property. There are cars that are parked in the driveway, or there's a vehicle that's parked in the driveway and the motorcycle that's also there. Is it reasonable for the authorities to just leave then?
No, I think it would be reasonable to go get a warrant.
Well, for what? I mean, the emergency aid exception is an exception to the warrant requirement that allows the law enforcement to address an issue that is exigent, to address an issue where you don't have time to go get a warrant. And so if you're wondering, is there a person inside who is dying of carbon monoxide poisoning, is it reasonable to expect an officer to leave the scene and go and get a warrant and come back?
Judges must weigh uncertainty against urgency. If officers wait too long, someone inside could die. But if they act too quickly, constitutional protections may disappear just as fast.
If those were the only facts that were available or were developed in this case, but we're looking at the totality of the circumstances, not just the cars parked outside and the alarm going off. I mean, the officers are the fire department. I mean, the people we want who are tasked with going to and discovering and investigating these types of smoke detectors, alarms, whatever we want to call them, going off. They go out there. They don't enter. In fact, I think the fact that the reason why they called Mr. Ekdahl and why they tried to call his landlord was probably because they thought that they needed consent to go on inside. They obviously didn't make contact with him, but they walked around his house for 20 to 30 minutes. They knock on all the doors. They knock on all the windows. They touch the knob. They don't realize that there's any heat. They don't hear anything. They walk around the perimeter of the house with the thermal imaging camera trying to get any kind of heat signatures. They don't get anything. There just wasn't any reasonable, it wasn't objectively reasonable to think that someone was inside. There has to be more than just, well,
The defense points to silence, no heat, no sound, no signs of danger. In law, the absence of evidence can be just as powerful as evidence itself.
just, well, there could be a person inside and they could be having a problem if this happens to be a carbon monoxide detection. And of course, it didn't turn out to be a carbon monoxide. It turned out to be a smoke alarm that didn't have its batteries, correct. It was malfunctioning for whatever reason. They go in there, you can see in the body cam footage of the fire department standing there, and they've got their little meter and they're walking around. They said this thing, tells 5 different things that could be we're not getting any readings of anything. And again, I understand what we're talking about.
But you don't know that until you're inside.
Of course. And but what I think what I'm trying to emphasize is that it's not just there's cars outside, this alarm has been going off. There's other circumstances and other things that were aware and known by the fire department before they called law enforcement. If there was an emergency, that's what they need. If there's an emergency, you're right, they don't need to go in. We would all hope that if there's an emergency, they go inside. But they didn't have any evidence. Again, question. You didn't have any evidence.
Help me understand the record. That delay was about an hour before the police came?
No, I think fire department showed up and was on scene for about 20 to 25 minutes.
Time becomes critical. Minutes passing without danger can slowly weaken the claim of an emergency, turning urgency into uncertainty.
They call law enforcement. Law enforcement shows up about 10 minutes later, and they're there for a very short time, because I think before law enforcement showed up, they had already identified the window that I think they said, this one's unlocked, you can, go in through there. So I would say it's...
But it was at least 30, 40, 45 minutes?
Yes.
So there's no emergency after that. Is that your argument? They've been around, so there's no fire, there's no... of course, they don't know if there's anybody dead inside, but...
I would say that certainly the fact that the alarm stopped sounding before they entered the residence terminated any...
If the alarm truly stopped before entry, the justification may vanish. One quiet moment could decide whether the Constitution was respected or ignored.
Belief that an emergency is taking place. But again, if carbon monoxide was a real concern, if it was objectively reasonable to worry that there was carbon monoxide inside the house, the fire department testified, we've got carbon monoxide machines on our truck. And everybody asked, did you use them? No. Well, why not? Because we didn't have any evidence that there was carbon monoxide inside. If you look at the probable cause affidavit, submitted in this case, carbon monoxide isn't mentioned once. And whether it's an after the fact justification, neither here nor there, I suppose. But there was no objectively reasonable belief that there was a person inside, or an objectively reasonable belief that there was that person needed.
The argument ends not with certainty, but with a question that judges must answer alone. Was this protection or intrusion?
The emergency assistance of personnel. I see I'm out of time. I'll be happy to answer any other questions or reserve any future questions for rebuttal.
Are there any other questions from the panel?
In the end, the case turns on a single question. Was this truly an emergency, or a search that went too far? The discovery of drugs may seem decisive, but courts must first decide how the evidence was found. When safety and privacy collide, which should matter more? Should officers act first to protect life, or wait to protect the Constitution? Tell us what you think justice requires in a moment like this.